What's up, you guys? I'm Rick, aka Ricky Bobber, and the Indian Scout Bobber was what I chose as my first motorcycle. In this video, I'll be discussing how the bike has been working out for me in the first 10,000 miles as a beginner rider, if I'd recommend this bike to you as a beginner bike, and do I see myself owning anything else in the future. A few of you may know me from this video.
This is my first day with my Indian Scout Bobber 2021.
Today, Junior?
Hey, I got my first knots, yay. Oh shit. Oh, that's embarrassing.
My first YouTube video was me sharing the story of my heart racing demo ride on the Indian Scout Bobber and how I ended up buying it that day and started up my YouTube channel.
So that was a chaotic adventure.
Fast forward 18 months and 10,000 miles later, I'm ready to answer the #1 question I get on my channel, and that's, would you say the Indian Scout Bobber is a good beginner bike? I've answered it briefly in the earlier video, but I have more to add to that now that I've had it for a while.
They asked me if I think the Indian Scout Bobber is a good beginner bike. Depends on the person. If you're not a show-off, or you're not going to goof off on the thing, yes, it's a beginner bike. You can do some stupid shit on this, but I've just been taking it easy, and I think it's perfect to grow into, like I mentioned.
Before I bought my Scout Bobber, I had a company-provided work truck, so I only rode the bike about 2,000 miles for the first 6 months of owning my Scout Bobber. So most of my riding was short distance on surface streets with very little freeway or twisty rides. In fact, being 100% honest here, I wasn't too comfortable riding on the freeway until I felt used to the bike and riding in general. Drivers here in San Diego are not the best. I wanted to get comfortable enough that if I had to make an emergency decision, I would choose the right moves and my rider instincts and muscle memory would serve me well. In my personal opinion, I think it helped that I didn't rush into full-blown motorcycle riding. I think taking it slow on the surface streets helped a lot with getting used to the bike and then slowly expanding my limits. And if the bike is brand new, that's better for your bike anyways for the first 500-mile break-in period. 6 months after buying it, I got a different job and I've currently been riding at least 30 miles a day over the last year or so. It's now my only vehicle, and at the moment I ride at least 5 days a week in all conditions, so that's really boosted my seat time. Don't get me wrong though, 10,000 miles is still a new rider, and I hope to look back and see how much I've improved from this point. Because of the Scout's 1133cc liquid-cooled V-twin engine and 6-speed transmission, along with the low weight for a cruiser of 555 pounds, this thing hauls about the same as some of the other heavier bikes with a bigger displacement, even the Indian motorcycle line. The top speed on the Scout is arguably about 125 to 130 miles per hour, which is higher or about the same as all the other bikes in the line except for the FTR options. So yes, the Indian Scout Bobber is a very fast and powerful vehicle, topping out at 100 horsepower and 72 foot-pounds of torque stock. So why do people, including myself, say that it's good for beginners? Why not encourage them to start on a Rebel 500 or something less than the 1133cc Scout? I mean, by all means, if you think you should start on something smaller, maybe go with your gut. But do this first. If you're in the main 48 states in the US, please go follow a nearby Indian motorcycle dealership on Instagram or Facebook and keep an eye out for the demo truck coming through. The truck tours through the US and typically stops at each dealership about twice a year if I'm not mistaken. You can also get on a demo ride at some of the motorcycle events. They make it pretty easy to try out any bike you want as long as you bring your motorcycle license with you. So the Scout Bobber is fast, but what makes it great for new riders is a few things. Mainly its power delivery. I'm talking about the twist of the wrist that's converted into torque in the back wheel. To reach the top speeds, it has to be very intentional. Some bikes go from 0 to 10 instantly. That would be considered a horrible beginner bike. Whereas the Scout Bobber takes a few seconds to get to 0 to 3, and then 4 to 10 really quickly after that. This 1 to 3 range makes city commuting very easy at lower speeds. And it also makes it haul ass if you give it permission. In fact, some long-term riders of other makes have mentioned this about the Scout Bobber and the Scout Rogue as a negative.
One additional point of feedback is the throttle response. With the electronic throttle, there's a certain position at which it's kind of on off. So if you guys can see, You know, the amount of like take up there and then kind of turns on. That does take a little bit of getting used to. Honestly, the cons, not really bad at all. The torque is incredibly linear. The horsepower is just very gradual.
But without this, I think we'd see a lot less new riders taking the Scout home. Most riders that started on 250s, 500s, or 883cc bikes will tell you they desired more after a short while and couldn't keep up on the highways. With the Scout in the 6th gear, you'll cruise at 65 miles an hour at about 3,300 RPM and it won't feel like it's struggling. It also goes up to 8,000 RPM, so you'll have power to spare if you need to rip by someone that looks like they're a danger to society. I've had the opportunity to ride various bikes since I've started my channel.
Oh shit! Look at me and the bike out. Got it?
Trying other bikes always reminds me that I've made the right choice. For example, I test rode the Triumph Bonneville Bobber. I found that with the Bonneville Bobber, the shifting was very unforgiving. If you weren't in the right gear for your speed or shifted up or down too soon, that thing felt like it was gonna buck you off. Okay, well not really, but it made it difficult for shifting, which could take some getting used to. The gears on the Scout are very forgiving. In fact, one issue I had as a beginner rider was remembering to shift down when I came to a stop. So I'd find myself trying to take off from a stoplight in 4th or any gear other than 1st. Although not recommended, if you found yourself in the same situation, you could ease out of the friction zone and smoothly catch up to the speed of the gear you're in without missing a beat, even in 6th gear. I couldn't do this video without also mentioning 2 other things about the Scout Bobber that make it great for new riders. One is its very low profile and center of gravity, which make it much easier to keep from laying down at any speed. I can stand straddling the bike and toss it left to right with ease, and it would rebound in the other direction like it's happy to play along. The last thing about the Union Scout Bobber is that if you decide it's not for you, there's loads of people looking for these pre-owned. It definitely keeps its value, should you choose to part with it for any reason. Where do I see myself as a rider the next few years? The Union Scout Bobber is a bike for you to grow into if you're new. It's great for beginners as well as seasoned riders. Being a content creator based around this bike has got me involved in a lot of conversations about it, and I've talked to riders that have had multiple bikes and have been riding for years and even decades, and the Scout Bobber is now one of their favorite bikes they've owned. I think I've chosen wisely, and I have no current plan to change up the bike for anything else. If anything, I wouldn't mind adding another bike to the stable, but my stable is currently a curb out in front of my house. I don't have the room for anything else at the moment, and I definitely want my next bike to be garage kept. Especially if it's going to be a more expensive motorcycle like the Challenger, or the Springfield, or the Pursuit, or Roadmaster, or any of those, maybe the Chief. Not sure yet, but I have had my eye on the Challenger, and the look of the Springfield has really started to grow on me. But I've told myself I'm never getting rid of the Scout. It's my first bike, and I wish I was wise enough to keep my very first car, which is a 280ZX, by the way. Love that thing, wish I still had it. They're super expensive now too, and I think I got rid of it for like $50 at the junkyard. If you like this video, check out one of my other ones here on the screen. The one on the left is the very first one I was talking to you about. The one on the right is the one that the Wizard of Algorithms thinks that you would like. So check it out. But thanks for being here. Drop a comment if you love your Scout Bobber. Tell me how long you've had it and how it's been going for you so far. So people thinking about picking one up have a few more perspectives from other riders. You guys have been awesome. Hope to catch you on the next one. Later.